Welcome back. This is Dan Havey with CFninjaHacks, and a couple of days ago I built out this page here, and what was cool about this page is we set this image to essentially the viewport height. So no matter what, when you change the size here or you change the width, the image is always going to stay at 100% of the viewport height minus this bar at the bottom. And then when you scroll down, what happens is the image is parallax. The bottom bar scrolls up and basically then becomes your top nav bar, whereas in the beginning it was your bottom nav bar. And I started thinking, well, what else can I do on here as far as making things sticky and also having them be responsive to the viewport height and the viewport width. And so what I did was I played around with a couple things, and we're going to build them out real quick right now. So what I want to do is I want to add a row, and this is just going to be a one-column row. So let's just drag that into place. And on this row, what I want to do, well, first thing you want to do is when doing this, you want to make sure you have zero padding on the section that you're working in. And then on the row itself, you want to have exactly the same thing, zero padding. Well, we want to put a background image on here, so let's go in and let's find ourselves a background image. Okay, here, let's just use this image right here. So now we have it way up here at the top, and we got rid of all the padding, and that's all we need to do there because the rest of it we're all going to do with code. So the first thing I want to do is I want to grab the ID selector for that row. So let's just come down to that row. It should be our one-column row right here at the top. And we will go in and grab the ID selector for that. And then we're going to come out of that. We're going to go into our CSS. And so we're just going to put that right there in our CSS. And what we want to do is we need to set a height and a width for this element. And so we're going to come in, we're going to say we want a height, let's just say for starters here, of 200 pixels. And we want a width of 300 pixels. Okay. Now inside of here, let's just say we want to put in a text element. So we're going to add an element. We'll just use the headline element. And let's just change this so it says some text will go here at some time in the future. Okay. And now let's say we want to float that to the left, and let's make it white and maybe a little bit smaller. So we'll make the text white, and let's bring that down to, let's say, about 28. Okay, so now we have our text element set in here. Now the next thing we want to do is we don't want it up here at the top. So where we want it is about right down here in the middle. And so in order to do that, we have to set the positioning on this. So we're going to go back into the CSS, and how you're going to set the positioning is you need to set this positioning to absolute. So it's going to be absolutely locked into a very specific spot, and we're going to tell it exactly where that spot is. So we're going to say position absolute. And we're going to just say we want this top of 200 pixels. So we're going to have it come down 200 pixels from the top. So we will jump out of here, save it, and then let us preview our page. Now there it is right in the middle of the page where we set it. But here's the issue we're going to have. See, first off, is it's not moving along as I change the height. It's not moving along in the height, and I see it's moving in the background. I'm going to have to change how we have that image set. And we'll come back and forth. It's staying in the right height, but it's not changing width-wise, and we want it to change width-wise as well. So let's come back in, and the first thing we need to do is we need to deal with that image. And it says it's now a full center parallax. What we're going to do is we're just going to put it to no repeat. Now, actually, let's do 100% width and height. Okay. That should be okay then, because we can actually see the image then now. Okay. So what we want to do now is we want to make this so it will move as we resize the image. So the first thing we have to do is instead of having our top being at 200 pixels, we want to change this, and we want to be 20% of the viewport height. So that means it's going to come down 20%, and then that's where it's going to live, is 20% down from the top of the viewport. Now on the height, same thing. We want to have it only be tall as 20% of the total viewport height. So we will type in 20 VH. And for the width, we want it to be 30% of the width. So I just used the 200 and the 300 just to make it simple, because I already did this once, but I just wanted to show you how we put this together. So now we have it as based upon the height and width of the viewport itself. So again, we will click on Save, reload the page. And now as I resize, you're going to see the box will resize as well. It's very subtle, but it's actually getting a little bit thinner, and there you see it changed everything. And we would need a little bit of text on, or I'm sorry, a little padding on the text. And again, as we come up, again, it gets smaller based upon the height of the element. So now let's go back in. And the element itself in the middle here, the text itself, is a little bit too close to the top. So we're going to come in and we're going to open up our CSS again. And before we do that, we're going to actually have to come in here, grab the CSS ID selector for that headline element. And we will grab that. And we'll come into our CSS again. And what we want to do here is we want to say margin top, and we could set a specific number on this, but we know that that image size, the background of it, is actually going to change because we already said we wanted to change based upon the viewport. So what we're going to do is we're going to make the image top 10% from the top of the, gotta put important on here, we're going to have it be 10% from the top of the row this time. So we're inside of this row element now, so we're coming off, or where any percentages we go off of are going to be off of the row, not off of the entire viewport size. That's why we're just saying 10% of the row. And in this case here, let's just do a little bit of padding left of, as long as we're doing percents, let's just stick with that. So we got 5% on the padding on the left-hand side. That actually looks like it's probably going to be too much. Let's just go 2%. Okay, now we will save that. And then let's go back in and preview it once again. Okay, so now the text is down a little bit, and now we can come over, and again, it starts to size down the width a little bit as we move over a little bit closer. And then let's see here, same thing. Okay, I just realized that I had to pause for a second, but it's not sizing right. And the reason why is we'll come back in here into our CSS, and for the width, what I should have done for these two boxes, where is it? Right here. For the height and the width, I should not have based that on the height. I should have based that on the width of the viewport. So we're going to change that to width, have the top come down 20% of the height, but the height and the width are actually going to be variables based upon the width of the page, not the height of the page. So let's come back out of here and save that. As you can see, it's going to be hugely different in the way it sizes itself. I didn't think it looked like it was right at first, but yeah, so let's redo this now. And now it's resizing itself much better as we go along. Okay, now we go back into the CSS and keep moving forward, because as you saw, as we were sizing that, one of the problems becomes is the size of the text. Size of the text does not change, And you get to have a height issue as well, a line height issue. It doesn't look so bad here, but when I was originally testing it, there was definitely an issue with that. So let's go back into our CSS, and we're going to add in one more line. Let me see here. Did I make this text bold? So we'll go back into our CSS. We're going to essentially grab this whole line again. We're going to copy it, because all we have to do is we have to put in here space B, indicating that we're looking for the bold text. And then what we're going to do is we're going to change all this here. So we're going to change this to font size of 3VW. So it's going to be 3 based upon the width. So it's going to be 3% of the width of the page will be our new font size. And we're going to change the line height to the same thing of 3VW. And we will save this, and we will go back into our preview page. And you're going to see the text size is going to be bigger now. But what's going to happen as we change the width, you can see not only does text size get smaller, but the line height shrinks down as well. So it keeps it more consistent and in frame. And again, you can make this frame a little bit bigger. There's a lot of things you can do to make this be a little bit more perfect. But you get the idea that you can set it so that the image changes, the size of the row changes, while staying in place at the same time. It all changes, and you can have the text change as well, depending on what size screen somebody's looking at it on. Now, of course, when you get to a mobile view, you probably want to take all of this out, because your mobile view is going to be totally different. You're probably not going to have a full height image of this lady there, and your nav menu is probably going to be a hamburger menu. So this would only be for a desktop version, but it is one way that you can put stuff in here, because I see it all the time where people want to put words over an image that they have in the middle. Well, this is a way you could kind of put those words off to the side and then have it size along with the size of the viewport that somebody is looking at. So that is it for today. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Have a great day.